It's no longer the mighty SEC and everybody else. That gap is closed. People are waiting on the SEC demise, and they think it is here now. You got the fans of the Big Ten, the ACC, and all of these other conferences that want their just due. And to be fair, the SEC. I say we. I'm a Florida Gator fan, but SEC didn't win they did not win the big championship last year.
Definitely has not been a good year for the SEC. And it's carried into the bowl season, not just in the playoff, but in a lot of the other bowls as well. And so there's something to that. It's a big conference. During the course of the regular season, it felt like you could make the argument that, well, all these really good teams are just playing each other and beating each other up and taking these losses. Whereas it felt like in the Big Ten, a lot of those teams kind of avoided each other and, maybe only played one game against each other. And so the records, you didn't have a bunch of 2-loss teams at the end of the day, which is what you had, 2 and 3 loss teams.
I want to stay in the football here. Let's quickly move to this college football. A lot of people are down on the SEC, man. They're talking trash. The SEC's reality check playoff woes indicate college football has caught up. Then you got the other article is no longer the mighty SEC and everybody else. That gap is closed. People are waiting on the SEC demise, and they think it is here now. You got the fans of the Big Ten, the ACC, and all of these other conferences that want their just due. And to be fair, the SEC. I say we. I'm a Florida Gator fan, but SEC didn't win they did not win the big championship last year. And then this year you only have Texas remaining. And some days I don't even count Texas as SEC. So
you kind of have to remind yourself.
I just have to remind myself.
They're newly arrived.
So of course the SEC is going to get them and claim them because technically they are, but whatever.
They're the yeah, you're right.
What is your take on that?
It definitely has not been a good year for the SEC. And it's carried into the bowl season, not just in the playoff, but in a lot of the other bowls as well. And so there's something to that. It's a big conference. During the course of the regular season, it felt like you could make the argument that, well, all these really good teams are just playing each other and beating each other up and taking these losses. Whereas it felt like in the Big Ten, a lot of those teams kind of avoided each other and, maybe only played one game against each other. And so the records, you didn't have a bunch of 2-loss teams at the end of the day, which is what you had, 2 and 3 loss teams. So, at the end of the day, I think when you look at those teams individually, most of them were flawed. Most of them just weren't great. I watched Georgia the other day, and they don't have a dynamic playmaker. They just don't. And they really haven't had one since Pickens.
Not even Travis Etienne?
No, he doesn't move the needle like that. He's a good football player.
He's okay, yeah.
But there's not a guy that you're looking at on that Georgia team. It's like that guy's just a handful. I mean, then you watch Ohio State, you look at Jeremiah Smith, and you go, who's
what are we going to do with that?
Who's fucking going to do anything with this? Yeah. Georgia doesn't have that player. Now, they had the tight end last year who had a great NFL debut, but Brock Bowers. But they haven't had that in a long time. Alabama in their heyday.
But I understand.
No, but Alabama in their heyday, you're Waddle,
3 or 4 at a time.
Yeah, Judy, like all these
3 or 4 at a time.
3 or 4 first-round picks at the wide receiver spot.
Yeah,
and then some years you get Derrick Henry running. I mean, it's they have not done that. And so. That's kind of their flaw. Obviously, it didn't hurt that they lose their quarterback, before the playoff. It is what it is. But they didn't even put up a good effort against Notre Dame. And then the rest of the SEC, I mean, Texas has been good. They lost to Georgia twice. It's the only ones. But they look vulnerable. That Arizona State game, they should have lost.
Yeah.
They controlled it for most of the time. But to me, that was a targeting call. And Arizona State should have had a field goal to win. And I think that was unjust. But all these teams, Alabama was only as good as Milroe, and he was bad half the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's like catching up or not. But there are some arguments, though, that particularly Alabama in general, there's talk they don't have the same resources NIL-wise that some of the other schools have. And they may be in a permanent decline. I was actually listening to Feinbaum on the way over here, and he was talking, this is not good at all. They just don't have the resources. They don't have the big booster network that with real money. You could have a bunch of rabid fans who don't give a shit about nothing but the Tide, but if they don't have any money, it's not going to help you.
Yeah.
And if they don't,
in this era,
this era, that's what you're looking at. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's an argument that they're not as strong as they were, and can they get back there? It's still the most fertile recruiting ground in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, somebody can get it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you look at it over the course of the season. I'm looking at these games, and that is the case. That all the SEC teams out there playing each other every week, and the other conferences that's not the case. But even when you're watching these teams play each other every week, we're watching. It's like, nah, these guys over the Florida Gators, bad team this year. But we had a stretch of 4 or 5 games down. I said, hey, we're going to win like 2 of these. Like this, I don't believe in Georgia. I don't believe. So I can't turn around and just because we're comparing to the Big 12 and say, oh, no, this is SEC. No, I did not believe that Georgia was the Georgia of yesteryears and Alabama. And I said, we're going to win. And we should have won the fucking Georgia game, but quarterback got hurt. And then we ended up beating LSU. But I do think that we were a deeper conference than normally. Like I know we had a couple of really bad teams, but I don't think that. I think that the middle of the road teams, a lot of these other conferences, middle of the road teams, we were much better.
Yeah,
I think we're a deeper conference, but at the top is what matters because those are the teams that are going to make it to the playoffs.
And that's my thing. Like depth could be a delusion. Depth could just be the revelation that your top teams aren't that good.
Could be, but I don't think that's the case.
I think that this playoff has proven it.
No. I think 2 things can be true, is what I'm saying. I believe I think the middle of the road teams in the SEC are stronger than the middle of the road teams in the other conference. I think that is a true statement. But I also believe that the teams that are the top of teams, the Georgia, Alabamas, and stuff like that, these are not the best versions of them. They're down. They're down.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying.
For sure.
That's what I'm saying. All right. So yeah, we'll see what happens next year. All right. So now we're rolling into the playoffs this week. First week of the playoffs. A couple of questions for you. Out of everyone, like as far as players wise, who has the most pressure on them?
Individual player.
Yeah, individual player.
It's to me Lamar and Josh Allen.
Yeah, for me, it just has to be Lamar. There's a lot of talk going around because with the MVP race and then the quarterback play over the course of the years of these playoffs, Lamar. It's funny you said Lamar and Josh because those are the top 2 in the MVP race. And we talked about this ad nauseum as Josh has had good performances in the playoffs. Lamar has not. And now the narrative is, okay, there is a ton of pressure on Lamar because, he may very well win his 3rd MVP.
Yeah.
His stats are there. You got Derrick Henry coming out today saying, my success shouldn't impact Lamar's success as far as you guys labeling him an MVP or naming him the MVP or what have you. I don't agree with that. I think that should impact. It just has over the course of sports history.
You think it diminishes Lamar's
Yes,
chance to be
it should. And I think it should.
Well, I agree. I agree with Derrick Henry saying what he's saying. I think that's being a good teammate.
Yeah. That's fine. I don't have any problems with what he said. I just think it's incorrect. That's why Kobe and Shaq have 1 or 2 MVPs. That's why you just go over it on and on. Because as much talk as about Saquon being in the MVP, like there's an argument Derrick Henry's numbers are better. He has less rush attempts, has more touchdowns, and damn near as many yards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Derrick Henry has just been a monster, and I just think that matters. They're 0-5 when he doesn't get at least 20 touches. Like that's 20 touches, like, and they're 0-5. If he gets 19, 19, so you have to give him the ball in order to run.
That's that. It could be a bit of a misleading stat because, again, he's not going to get the touches when if they're playing from behind. They're not going to generally be able to get the same amount of touches to him when they're playing from behind. So I would be curious to see in the games that he got less than 20 touches, were those games that they were behind and chasing the game most of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a point.
I mean, there's generally a correlation. Again, if you're up, 7 points, 10 points, whatever, most of the game, you're going to continue to pound the football. That's Derrick Henry time. You're going to wear people out. But if you're in a situation where you're down and you're chasing the game, you're going to be in more passing situations and so forth.
Yeah, Baltimore's a good team. It's not a ton of games where they're going to be down.
No, but I would wonder if you look at those 5 games, did those represent times when they were down for the larger segments of the game?